I want you to picture someone. He is 34 years old. 3 years ago, he was earning about $45,000 a year, and money stressed him out constantly. He told himself the problem was obvious. He simply did not earn enough. And then, for once, things actually went his way. A promotion, a job change, a proper raise on top of that. Today, he earns almost double what he made back then. And last Tuesday, at 11 at night, he was lying in bed doing the exact same mental math he used to do at 45,000. The rent, the car, the card balance he keeps, meaning to clear. The thing he promised his family he would handle. Same tight chest, same quiet dread. If more money fixes financial stress, somebody forgot to tell his nervous system. Here is the uncomfortable part. His story is not the exception. It is close to the default. And by the end of this video, I want you to see exactly why. Because there is one number that predicts money stress far better than income does. We will get to it. Most of us grow up with a simple equation in our heads. Money stress means not enough money, so the fix must be more money. It sounds so obviously true that almost nobody questions it. But if that equation held, stress would fall every time income rises. And for most people, it just does not. It dips for a month or two, then quietly climbs back to its old level, sometimes higher. That is not a personal failure. It is what happens when we treat an emotional problem like an arithmetic problem. I keep meeting versions of that man from the opening. Different salaries, different cities, same 11 at night math. Watching that exact pattern repeat, no matter the income level, is honestly the reason Wealth Modules exists. I'm Theo, by the way. Each week I try to unpack why money behaves one way on paper and a completely different way inside our heads. And this pattern, stress that survives every raise, is one of the clearest examples I know. So what actually happens when your income goes up? Usually, your life goes up with it. Not in one dramatic splurge, but in a series of small, completely reasonable upgrades. A slightly nicer apartment, because you have earned it. A car that does not embarrass you at work. Better groceries, more takeout on tired nights. Holidays that finally feel like holidays. Each choice makes sense on its own. Nobody sits down and decides to erase their raise. It just gets absorbed, one sensible upgrade at a time. There is a name for this: lifestyle inflation. Your expenses rise to meet your income, the way water rises, to fill whatever container you pour it into. And here is the part your brain contributes. Whatever your life upgrades into stops feeling like an upgrade remarkably fast. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation, which is a formal way of saying that new things become normal things. The bigger apartment feels like just your apartment within a couple of months. The better car is just your car. The raise that once felt like breathing room becomes the new baseline your whole life is built on. So the pleasure fades, but the costs stay. You adapt to the comfort. You never adapt to the bill. Now notice what kind of costs those upgrades usually are. The apartment is a lease. The car is a monthly payment. The school, the gym, the subscriptions, they are all commitments. When your income rises, most of the new money quietly gets converted into fixed obligations. Things you owe every single month, whether the month goes well or not. And this is where stress actually lives. Not in how much you earn, but in how much of your life is pre-spent before the month even starts. A raise that turns into fixed commitments does not buy you freedom. It buys you a heavier machine that needs feeding. And it is not just your own expectations that rise with your income. Other people's do too. Family starts to assume you can help because now you can. Friends assume the nicer restaurant is fine for you these days. You assume it about yourself, that someone at your level should dress a certain way, give a certain way, show up a certain way. None of these are bills, exactly. But they behave like bills. They arrive monthly, they carry guilt when unpaid, and they scale with every raise. For a lot of people, especially anyone supporting family, this is the silent tax on progress that nobody warned them about. It deserves to be named without shame, because it is love and pressure tangled together, and it is real money. Remember that number I promised you at the start? The one that predicts money stress better than income? It is your margin. The gap between what comes in and what is already committed to go out. Financial stress, at its core, is your mind reacting to two things: uncertainty and lack of room. When your margin is thin, every surprise is a threat. The car repair, the dental bill, the invitation to a wedding abroad. It does not matter whether you earn $4,000 a month or $14,000 a month. If the gap is near zero, your body treats life as dangerous. There is a second ingredient hiding inside that, and it explains why some people feel stressed even with a decent gap. Predictability. If your income moves around, commissions, shifts, freelance months, your mind cannot fully trust the gap, because the gap keeps changing shape. The same thing happens on the spending side if you genuinely do not know what next month holds. This is why clarity matters as much as the margin itself. A slightly smaller gap that you can see and predict often feels safer than a bigger one you are only guessing at. Your nervous system does not read your bank balance. It reads how much of the picture you can see. That is why you will meet people on modest incomes who seem strangely calm about money, and high earners who are quietly frantic. The calm ones are not more disciplined or more virtuous. They usually just have room. A few months of expenses set aside, commitments that sit well below what they earn, and a clear picture of where they stand. The frantic ones often have impressive salaries stretched drum-tight across impressive lives. On paper, one of these people is richer. In their bodies, the other one is. There is one more trap worth naming, because you have probably felt it: the moving goalpost. At some point you picked a number and told yourself, once I earn that, I will feel fine. Then you reached it, or got close, and the number moved. It always moves. Not because you are greedy, but because the feeling you were chasing was never going to come from the number. You were trying to buy a sense of safety with income, and safety is not sold in that currency. Now, to be fair to the raise, none of this means income does not matter. It does. More money is more raw material, and at low incomes, more money absolutely reduces real hardship. If you cannot cover the basics, the problem genuinely is the amount, not the psychology. This video is about the strange zone so many working people live in, where the numbers say you should be fine, and the feeling says otherwise. In that zone, more raw material poured into the same shape produces the same stress, just at a larger scale. The shape is what we are really here to talk about. So here is the shift, and it is a genuinely different way of seeing the problem. Stop asking, how do I earn more, and start asking, how do I widen the gap, and how do I make it visible? Because your stress does not respond to your salary. It responds to your sense of control, and control comes from two very unglamorous things: margin you can see, and commitments you chose deliberately. This changes decisions in a quiet but real way. A raise stops being an invitation to upgrade everything and becomes a choice about how much room to buy yourself. An expense stops being a question of, can I afford this month, and becomes a question of, what does this do to my gap? Nothing about your income has to change for the stress to start easing. What changes is that, for the first time, you can see the thing your mind has been anxiously guessing at. So what do you actually do? Start embarrassingly small. This week, work out one number. Take what comes in over a month. Subtract everything that is already committed: the rent, the payments, the bills, the subscriptions, and look at what is left. That number is your margin. Do not judge it yet. Just meet it. Most people have never once seen it written down, which is exactly why their stress has no edges. And once you know your margin, give it somewhere to live. Even a small separate pot, built slowly, changes how surprises feel. This is what an emergency fund actually is, by the way. Not a finance ritual, and not a test of discipline. It is calm, purchased in advance, in small monthly installments. The first few hundred tends to do more for your sleep than the last few thousand ever will, because it changes the answer to the question your mind keeps asking at 11 at night. If something goes wrong, do we have anything? Once the honest answer becomes yes, even a small yes, the volume of that question drops. Then, going forward, one gentle rule. Whenever new money arrives, a raise, a bonus, a side payment, decide in advance what share of it becomes room and what share becomes lifestyle. Even half and half changes the trajectory. And before you take on any new monthly commitment, ask what it does to the gap, not just whether this month can absorb it. If this way of looking at money is making sense so far, that is exactly why I make these videos. If you want more of this kind of thinking, subscribing genuinely helps me keep going. And if you recognized yourself tonight, in the 11 at night math, in the raise that changed nothing, be kind about it. You were handed an equation as a child. More money equals less stress. And you did what anyone would do with it. The equation was just incomplete. You are not bad with money. You have been solving the wrong problem with real effort. So here is the small, doable step. One number, this week. What comes in minus what is committed. That is it. Not a new budget, not a new life. Just the beginning of seeing clearly. Because the goal was never to feel rich. It was to stop feeling hunted. And that starts with room, not with the raise. Progress beats perfection. I will see you in the next one.